So, welcome back to War Thunder, welcome to the Duck Talks number 46, the day after I released the MX13 video. So, yeah, this is the same day that I recorded the video, so I have no idea what you guys responded. But, yeah, I wanted to talk the day before I recorded all of this, the day the patch dropped. So, my first impressions on the patch, not quite. But yeah, I had a bit of a hipster moment and I wanted to talk about it because everybody was playing French, everybody was just grinding like crazy, and I was like, oh god, I have to do it again. And then it dawned on me, hey man, this is not a job, this is supposed to be fun, and this is where the Coelian comes in, German 6.7 SPA. And what you're about to see is me having a little bit of fun with this tank against those who tried to grind hardcore. So yeah, the Coelian, I absolutely loved it. I haven't played Germany 6.7 in months. I've talked about it quite a bit in comparison and yada yada yada. But I thought to myself, come on, you know, it's time before Christmas. Just have a bit of positive thoughts in your bloody life and yeah, play Germans. You know, fits very well together. What about the French? Well, I actually like them, but I despise their low tier. Like, there are essential memes, like stock APCR with 36 millimeters of penetration. Nah, no, just go home. On one of those days, oh god, I mean, the SPAs look fun. The auto loaders are not game breaking, they don't have APHE which could be game breaking. I absolutely love the spotting mechanics, and after I recorded the video I played so many more games. I got ace after ace after ace. The AP buff is absolutely phenomenal. It completely rivals now with the damage output of APHE if you now aim at the correct spots, especially if you hit somebody through the engine. It completely obliterates the tank, no doubt about that. In many cases I had the feeling like, come on, it's too strong, like hitting a tiger from the rear, and the shrapnels went from the very back to the very front and killed all crew members, and it didn't even hit very good. Like, it was crazy, or it still is crazy with the MX13 SS11, a tank that I think has to be played correctly. But when you do, when you go into situations like, holy hell, I had some insane triple kills, like an enemy team won a fight on one flank. I came from the rear and just one-shot them from behind through the engine. It's kind of like a cupola hit with APHE. So yeah, I don't think that they were really amused by that, but I grinded a lot in one day. Gaijin were very generous by gifting me this tank, so thank you, Gaijin. But I truly, honestly recommend this tank for those who have faith in their medium or light tank skills. It has everything that you really need, especially with the buffed AP. Yes, you cannot take on enemy tanks from the front, but I think this is what a light tank should be, you know. It shouldn't be an Object 906 kind of ruffle stomp vehicle. So again, the conjunction of how the tank drives, its ability, the buff to AP, my experience in the Begleitpanzer 57, the new maps that I get on a regular basis, which I at the moment still enjoy, and I don't mind the size of it. I mean, you know, this is why we have map rotation, that everybody gets one of his favorite maps at a time. At least this is how it should work. For many people it seems to work, for many people it seems to not work. Whatever, you have to deal with it, doesn't matter, I guess. Yeah, the Coelian, back to it. The reason why I had so much fun in the Coelian is because I had it already stated, I was just having fun. I got matches instantly, I didn't have to wait in the queue like I guess so many of the low tier French grinders, and everything was according to plan, and those few good matches really brought back a smile on my face. Short outlook to World of Warships. I now have the Große Kurfürst. It's a fantastic ship. I still don't hit anything with it because, you know, half of the shells go wide, half of the shells go low, and the few shells that hit are mostly over penetrations. Yeah, even if you hit on the waterline, even with the 420 millimeters, which are in this case better than the 406 millimeters. Yeah, before I forget it, again, a big thank you to Gaijin. I mean, they could have participated in this loot box nonsense, and they didn't. I mean, we have some sort of loot boxes, but you cannot even buy them at this point in time. So for example, your daily login, by the way, there is something special coming, and yeah, I mean, you cannot pay for RNG in War Thunder, I guess, like World of Tank does with its advent calendar nonsense, or, you know, EA and their fantastic games, which, you know, DLC and pre-order and bundle and nonsense, whatever, you know, at the end of the day, it costs a lot of money and it's limited fun. And whatever you invest in War Thunder, whatever I invested in War Thunder, I still have today. It's even too much content. And yeah, Gaijin has surprised us this year with a lot of content. Like, I have to say, it's outstanding what they did. We saw numerous additions of planes and tanks to the existing nations, and also to new nations, with the French actually then being, with this update, the first complete implementation into the game in 1 year. The Italians technically as well, but you know, 2 tanks, you really can't count them. So now I come to the section already where I want to answer certain questions from last Duck Talks. Joshua Gliese asks, do you have the special lag that Gaijin gives to those who help them? I guess you mean the lag 3-4? Yes, I have. Swiss Cowboy 87 asks, what do you think about the upcoming French tanks? Even more power creep? Well, I have not played them all. But from what I've seen, from what I've heard, and from what I have, you know, experienced myself, they have their special flavor, but they are not extremely overpowered, for sure not. The autoloader has advantages, has disadvantages, I guess, for the game. With the MX-13 SS11, I think it's capable of getting spectacular results, but it has its limitations, and you can kill it with one shot. It's not a nice 6. That's all that I want to say. So Blue Rose Gaming asks, what I hate in Tank RB are planes, they ruin it. My question to you, what needs to change? Well, frankly, planes are annoying. They are one of the selling points of Tank RB or Combined Arms. I think Gaijin will never remove them, and with the readjustment to the rockets, which was desperately needed, they actually fixed the biggest complaint that I had. I mean, you still have the inequality of RB potential between the nations. I mean, just look at the Italians, just look at the Japanese, to a certain degree also the Germans, which are very difficult for handling, you know, pulling out of a dive with cannon cast, bringing in the bombs without the bombing reticle and so forth. It's difficult, doable to a certain degree, but not easy. By the way, are those all Axis nations that I just mentioned? Just coincidence. Kipper asks, do you have any specific vehicles that you would want to see in War Thunder? Well, for shits and giggles, I guess the Sturmtiger, you know, with a 380mm mortar, or which was developed from a depth charge launcher from German destroyers. I'd love to see that, just for the nonsense of it. How effective it would be, I don't know, but it wouldn't be a game changer like I don't know, APDS was, something like this. Yeah. Then Frank Bradley asks, together with a big response from the Scottish Koala, what I think about Tier 6 aircraft, and both have mentioned or named a huge variety of planes. Well, let me tell you this, guys. Tier 6 aircraft, if they get implemented like the early days of Tier 6 tanks, do you remember at 8.3 the Kampfpanzer 70 and the T-64A. Imagine this for jets. So I'm not a big fan of them, as well as Gaijin should desperately just overwork the existing jets, fill some performance gaps, readjust the battle ratings and so forth, make them enjoyable, and then they can add whatever they want. You know, it would be definitely better from what we have now. I don't know if some of the planes are supersonic, and if this is in the realm of possibilities, or what Gaijin has set to them as the technological boundaries, you know, guided rockets and something like this. We will have to see. The next question comes from Rahul Samant. Hey bro, can you explain why Tiger H1 shells Panzergranate has less penetration at 60 degrees slope than T-34-85 BR-365 shells, even having a bigger gun and higher muzzle velocity? Comrade, it's secret documents. Dominic Meneda asks again what my opinion on the French autoloaders is, and what to balance. Well, one final thought. They would have been really overpowered if they had APHE, but then again, how they perform as, you know, more of the flanking style or ambush predators with those AP shots, they are seriously strong, I have to say. Next question comes from Harley Quinn. It's in German and it's a bit longer, but in quintessence he wants to know if I have any tips for the Focke-Wulf 190A5. And he also complains a bit of the armament, and it seems to spark a lot. First of all, don't fly any German fighters. It's just annoying, it's stupid how they fly, how they are limited, they are uncompetitive, and just because people get their kills in head-ons, or they boom and zoom low-flying ground attackers, or, you know, P-51s that are going after SPA and so stuff, or farming bombers, doesn't mean that the plane is good. Okay, so Focke-Wulf A5 is very tough to fly. You know, you cannot even do the theoretical boom and zoom stuff because you get out climbed, you got out accelerated, your roll rate is useless because you have no elevator authority. People disagree on this, they hate me for that, they give me dislikes for that, but I stand for this because I'm not taking wearable bullshit. By the way, that leads me to the definition of a wearable. Guys, do you actually know what a damn wearable is? Look it up. I'm practically the opposite of a wearable. Then the Scottish Koala again. Not interested in stirring up shit, but I think now with the IS-6 various nerfs recently, which were well deserved, it could use a slightly shorter reload. Perhaps just 3 seconds faster reload and the tank would be just perfect. At least I no longer feel like an asshole just for playing it. Scottish Koala. First of all, it received no nerf whatsoever. No nerf whatsoever. They just brought something back into line, which was actually something that the tank should have been able to, or should have in the first place, which is a so-called bug. And to then, you know, touch the tank softly with a shorter reload. It already has a shorter reload compared to other tanks at the same battle rating like the IS-3, and, you know, it has more mobility. So what do you want more from this tank? It's still an extremely capable tank, and you still have to very precisely aim for that one weak spot, and then it's not guaranteed to even one-shot the tank. So I have no idea what you're talking about. Then you tell me, man, I only work here. Napalm, I would like to know your opinion of current German teams at battle rating 5.0 to 5.7. To me, it seems that the teamwork that they used to have is gone and no one goes for the side limp anymore. First of all, I think you're talking about aircraft in RRB, and you're talking about the side climb. So first of all, at 5.0 to 5.7, this is the phase where the aircraft get really bad, where they just do not even match their historical capabilities, where they are badly modeled in terms of flight model. And this is, by the way, one very critical point for you to understand my criticism on German aircraft. If they have the world's most realistic flight models. Then this would be okay if all other nations' aircraft would also get the historical performance, but they don't seem to have it, because I cannot imagine aircraft being that bad that I can hunt them down with ground attackers. Just saying. Something like the Tau 152H1, which absolutely has the biggest difficulties going to high altitude and performing there, getting outperformed by a Spitfire Mark 9 LF whatever. So, you know, then the Bf-109s that can't turn for their life, Dol 335s just being very fragile, burning all the time, sometimes surviving it, but then having to return to base because they're combat inefficient. The rudder locks up, it's just a big mess. Then also to reach a bit further, what was that nerf on the Horton 229 V3 with the removal of the ground attack belt? Good job, Gaijin. One reason more to not play CAS at all for Germany. Japan has only 6 jets currently. Will there be more in the future? Well, first of all, I don't know what Japan had in terms of jets in reality. They got another one, which is just a new version of, or a newer version of the F-86F. We currently have we had previously the F-86 F-30, and now it got complemented with the F-40. It has a nice paint job, and that's about it. Same battle rating, same armament, same upgrade options, you name it, you know. So I'm not quite sure about this. Next question comes from Shugun. What do you think about the economics in ground forces battle? Should it be the same as in RRB or not? Well, first of all, we kind of all agree that the grind for tanks is really long, and the stock grind in particular is painful and punishing and has nothing to do with overcoming it with skill or whatnot. You're slower, you don't very often not have the appropriate ammunition to deal with your enemies, you don't have repair packages, you don't have fire prevention equipment and so forth. It's punishing, and then you have low income, so to increase the income by double that would be appropriate, and it would bring more people into the game, in my opinion. Then Tech Priests asks, could you make a video where you point out the mistakes similar to IS-6 turret being too strong compared to real life and so forth? There is a problem. First of all the tanks that I know facts for sure about have already been in the game for quite some time, and suggestions for fixing issues like the lack of penetration or too much penetration or overperforming, underperforming of tanks, they already are in the forums and getting skillfully ignored by certain people that are capable of delivering it to the deaths, if you know what I mean. Then my other suggestion is another question from Tech Priest for the video questions for Duck Talks would be to revisit jets that rarely get played. Banshee, Panther, Attacker, Heinkel 162, etc. How would you create a healthy environment for those jets? People tend to go for mixed sabers, G91s and new French stuff because it performs well and it leaves little space for jets that just don't perform on the same level. Yeah, I cannot agree on every part. So first of all, the Heinkel 162 is just an awful jet, and if that flight model is historically accurate, which it seems to be close to, then there is not much that you can do except for dropping the battle rating. I mean, the top speed is limited, it overheats at certain altitudes, lower altitudes, it has difficulties to climb, the armament is insufficient, low mass velocity, not a lot of shells. It's just an awful jet. I recently had the feeling that even the Yak 15s are better planes than this thing, because the later mentioned are actually capable of turning. Then the Attacker is actually a fine plane, I find. It is kind of the counterpart to the Meteor Mark III. While the Meteor has a limited top speed but turns very well, the Attacker, well, it's very fast. It's not extremely maneuverable, but it still can turn. I had not the worst battles in this plane. Banshee Panther, again, they suffer from either the 8.0 problem or are, you know, at the wrong battle rating. So then Carnipax asks, Napalm, do you think tanks such as the M2061 and T-34-100 should be lowered back to 6.3? The T-34-100 and the M2061 both have amazing guns. Not that amazing, but it's T-34 M26 that can see the Maus E100 STB. Yeah, it can outflank the Maus E100, but all they need to do is angle, and the STB-1 outperforms them both immensely. If the M26E1 and T-34-100 were down tiered to 5.3, assuming they both get moved to 6.3, then the T-34-100 would still struggle, as it is a T-34 with 45mm of armor, and so forth. Well, you know, this is kind of a description of compression, and well, if you lower them too much, you know, they actually serve again more as power creep, and you have to think about this. The T-34-100 is practically, you know, a modified Panther 2. Think about it, just think about it. But that tank got increased in battle rating into a much more difficult environment. I think just because those tanks are not extremely powerful, and both are medium premiums, by the way, it's difficult. It's, if you lower them, they're too powerful. If you raise them or let them where they are, they struggle. You know, there are tanks that have problems and not much that you can do, because the entire battle rating range is difficult for each nation, except the Americans and Soviets and so forth. And they just don't have the best lineups in the shape of the T-34-100, or get overtaken in their performance in the shape of the M2061. So yeah, James Matthews asks, just got the P80, any tips for it? Well, yeah, keep it fast, do side climbing, just engage when you have an advantage, learn to aim with your 50 cals. Don't insist on stealth belts, because the damage output currently is not great. Use universal or ground targets even. Yes, ground targets. And yeah, try your best, because it's also not the very best jet to learn. There are other jets that are better training jets. So, and that's finally it for me today. It's already 22 minutes, approaching 23 minutes. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comment section what you think about the French tank, the patch, and the answered questions. Leave your questions in the comment section so I can answer them for the next Dog Talk. And as always, we will see each other in the skies and on the battlefields of War Thunder.